Your employer is your best investor and you're ignoring them. You're walking past the biggest investment opportunity of your life every single Monday morning. And the crazy part, you don't even see it. Let me prove it to you with one simple fact. Every 2 weeks, someone deposits thousands of dollars into your bank account. They ask for nothing in return except your time and effort. And instead of treating them like the venture capitalists they actually are, you're treating them like an ATM machine. I'm here to show you something that's going to completely change how you view your job. Because what if I told you that your employer isn't just paying you a salary? What if they're actually operating like a private equity firm and you're the portfolio company they're investing in? What if the investment terms they're offering you are so good that Silicon Valley founders would cry tears of joy if they got the same deal? The math is so obvious it's almost insulting. Yet 90% of people completely miss it. They're literally sitting on top of a money printing machine, complaining that they can't get ahead financially. So let me break this down for you in a way that'll make you see that paycheck completely differently starting today. Let's start with the most brazen example of free money that you're probably ignoring right now, the 401k match. Your company literally tells you, hey, for every dollar you put into your retirement account, we'll give you another dollar, free, no strings attached. That's a guaranteed 100% return on investment the second the money hits your account. Think about that for a moment. A 100% ROI instantly. Find me a single hedge fund manager on Wall Street who can promise you that kind of return. You can't because that person doesn't exist. And if they tried to promise it, they'd be arrested for fraud. Yet here's your employer offering you exactly that deal. And what are most people doing? They're saying no thank you. Here's what absolutely kills me. Roughly 1/3 of employees who have access to a 401k match don't contribute enough to get the full amount. 1/3? They're literally refusing a 100% return on their money because they feel like they can't afford to invest right now. That's like a business owner turning down a customer who wants to pay them double for their product because they're too busy trying to make money. The logic is completely backwards. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but I can barely pay my rent. How am I supposed to contribute 6% of my salary? I hear you. We'll address the tight budget situation in a bit. But first, you need to understand what you're actually doing when you skip that employer match. You're not just missing out on some extra money. You're refusing a capital injection from an investor who's literally trying to fund your escape plan from financial struggle. Let me put this in business terms so it really hits home. Imagine you start a company. An investor walks up to you and says, listen, for every dollar of your own money you put into this business, I'll match it with $1 of mine. No equity required, no board seat, no control over your decisions. Just free money to help you grow. You would sign that deal so fast the pen would catch on fire, right? That's exactly what the 401k match is. And you're ghosting the investor. But wait, it gets even better, or worse, depending on whether you've been paying attention to your benefits package. The health savings account might be the greatest legal tax loophole in the entire American financial system, and almost nobody uses it correctly. Here's how it works. Money goes into your HSA pre-tax, meaning you don't pay income tax on it. It grows inside the account tax-free, like a Roth IRA. And when you use it for qualified medical expenses, it comes out tax-free. That's a triple tax advantage on a single account. There's literally no other investment vehicle in America that gives you this kind of tax treatment. But here's what most people do. They treat their HSA like a checking account for Band-Aids and doctor copays. They're using a Ferrari to drive to the mailbox. The actual strategy that wealthy people use is this. Max out your HSA contributions every single year, never touch the money, pay for your medical expenses out of pocket, and let that HSA grow for 20 or 30 years. Then in retirement, you've got a massive pile of tax-free money sitting there while everyone else is paying taxes on their traditional retirement accounts. Now let's talk about something that blows my mind every time I think about it. Education reimbursement. A shocking number of companies will pay thousands of dollars per year for you to learn new skills, get certifications, or even complete entire degree programs. And almost nobody uses this benefit. Your employer isn't doing this out of charity. They're investing in human capital development because a more skilled employee generates more value for the company. But here's the beautiful part. Those skills are portable. You can take that company-funded education and leverage it anywhere you want, at your current job, at your next job, in your side business, wherever. In the startup world, founders bend over backwards trying to get grants. Why? Because grants are money you don't have to pay back and you don't have to give up any equity for them. Your employer is literally offering you grants for skill development, and you're not even filling out the application. Think about it this way. If you work for a company that offers $5,000 in annual education benefits and you don't use it, you've left $5,000 on the table. Do that for 5 years of your career, and you've missed out on $25,000 in free skill development. That's not a rounding error. That's a down payment on a house you didn't save. Now let's zoom way out because the literal benefits we just talked about are just the foundation. The real revelation here is understanding what your salary actually represents in the bigger picture of wealth building. Your paycheck isn't the end goal. Your paycheck is seed funding for you, Incorporated. Every successful business needs initial capital to start generating returns. Real estate investors need down payments to buy properties. Index fund investors need principal to let compound interest work its magic. Entrepreneurs need runway to build their businesses. Where does that initial capital come from? For most people, it comes from their salary. Your 9-to-5 job isn't the investment, it's the investor. When you reframe it this way, everything shifts. You stop seeing your job as this soul-crushing obligation where you trade time for money. You start seeing it as a strategic partnership where they're funding your real wealth-building activities. The salary they pay you on Friday is the exact same money that buys your rental property down payment or your Vanguard Index Fund shares on Monday. They're a capital partner whether they realize it or not. And here's the kicker, they don't need to realize it. You just need to understand it and act accordingly. This is why the people who actually get ahead financially aren't the ones who quit their jobs in some dramatic fashion to chase passive income with zero runway. They're the ones who exploit their jobs strategically. They maximize every single benefit. They extract every dollar of employer match. They claim every reimbursement they're entitled to. And then they deploy that capital into actual wealth-generating assets outside of work. But most people do the exact opposite. They see their salary as spending money, they ignore the benefits because paperwork is boring and confusing, and then they sit around wondering why they're not building wealth despite working full-time for years. You're essentially running a business that's refusing investment capital and rejecting free grants. Of course you're broke. Here's where it gets really interesting. We've been talking about explicit benefits, the line items in your compensation package, but there's an entire shadow portfolio that most people never even consider. I call it strategic resource extraction, and it's completely legal. Your employer has infrastructure. They've got expensive software licenses, professional networks, training programs, and institutional knowledge. Every single one of these resources can be leveraged to build your personal capital, and companies are essentially begging you to use them. Take software access, for example. If you work for any decent-sized company, you probably have access to tools that would cost you thousands of dollars per year as an individual. Project management software, design tools, data analytics platforms, collaboration systems. Don't just use them to do your job. Learn them. Master them. That's not just making you better at your current position. That's building a portable skill set that increases your market value everywhere. The same thing applies to professional networks. Your company probably sends employees to conferences, industry events, and training sessions. Go to all of them. Not because you want to be a good little employee, but because you're building social capital. Every person you meet is a potential future client, business partner, or employer. You're essentially networking on company time with a company credit card. That's a grant-funded business development program, and you should be milking it for everything it's worth. And let's talk about time arbitrage, because this is where things get really delicious. Most salaried jobs have built-in inefficiency. Meetings that should have been emails. Bureaucratic processes that waste time. Dead time between projects where you're just waiting for the next thing. The amateur employee watches Netflix or scrolls social media during those gaps. The professional uses that time to build wealth. You can research investment opportunities during slow periods. You can take online courses to develop new skills. You can plan your side business. You can work on your personal brand. You're being paid to invest in yourself, and nobody's tracking it as long as you're delivering on your actual job responsibilities. I'm not advocating stealing time from your employer. I'm advocating time optimization. If you can complete your job responsibilities in 35 hours, but you're being paid for 40, those 5 hours are an arbitrage opportunity. Deploy them strategically to build your future. The deepest level of this framework is understanding what a salary actually purchases for you beyond just the money itself. Your job buys you three things that are way more valuable than most people realize: credibility, stability, and optionality. Credibility first. When you're employed, especially at a recognizable company, you have institutional validation. Banks will give you mortgages. Landlords will approve your rental applications. Credit card companies will offer you higher limits. You can make large purchases and investments that would be completely impossible as an unemployed person, even if you had the exact same amount of cash in your bank account. Employment is a signal to the financial world that unlocks doors. Use it strategically while you have it. Stability creates runway. When you've got a predictable paycheck coming in every 2 weeks, you can take calculated risks with your invested capital that would be terrifying without that safety net. You can buy rental properties using leverage because you can prove steady income for the mortgage. You can invest aggressively in the stock market because you're not depending on those investments for immediate survival. You can start a business on the side because your living expenses are already covered by your salary. The salary isn't the wealth. The salary is the safety net that lets you build wealth without paralyzing fear. And optionality might be the most underrated benefit of all. Every single year you stay employed while simultaneously investing and building assets, you're buying yourself choices. The choice to take a sabbatical, the choice to switch careers into something you're passionate about, even if it pays less initially, the choice to go part-time, the choice to walk away from a toxic work situation because your investment income can cover your basic expenses. Most people think freedom comes from escaping the 9-to-5 grind. That's completely backwards. Real freedom comes from using the 9-to-5 strategically to build enough assets that the 9-to-5 eventually becomes optional instead of mandatory. That's the entire game. This isn't just abstract strategy and theory. Let me show you what this actually looks like when you execute it properly, because the difference between knowing this information and actually doing something with it is the difference between theory and a 7-figure net worth. Year 1. You're making $65,000. You're maxing out that 401k match, contributing to your HSA, and claiming tuition reimbursement for a certification that makes you more valuable in the job market. You're not spending your entire salary. You're spending what's left after you've captured every single benefit available to you. That first year, you might only manage to bank $4,000 in actual savings beyond the retirement accounts. It feels small and insignificant. But you've actually moved $15,000 into tax-advantaged accounts and skill development. You're building infrastructure, not just saving money. Year 3. You got promoted partly because of that certification you earned. Now you're making $80,000. But here's the critical move. You kept your lifestyle basically flat. Sure, maybe you upgraded your phone and bought a nicer mattress because sleep genuinely matters for your health and productivity. But you didn't move to the luxury apartment. You didn't finance a Tesla. You didn't inflate your lifestyle to match your new income. That discipline created a gap between what you earn and what you spend. Now you're saving $12,000 per year in taxable accounts on top of maxing out your retirement contributions. You're not rich yet, but you're liquid. And liquidity is the raw material of financial opportunity. Year 5. You've been quietly watching the real estate market in your area. A small condo hits the market during a downturn. It's undervalued because it needs some cosmetic work that you can handle. You've got $35,000 saved up at this point. You put down 20%, finance the rest at a low interest rate because your stable employment makes you creditworthy, and you rent it out immediately. The rent covers the mortgage plus $100 extra. You just bought an appreciating asset using the credibility your job provided, and it's paying for itself from day one. Year 7. The condo has appreciated in value. You've been making extra principal payments with your raises while continuing to keep lifestyle inflation in check. You've now got $80,000 in equity built up in that property. You take out a home equity line of credit against it and use that to buy a second rental property. Now you've got 2 rentals generating positive cash flow. Your W-2 income is still providing stability, but your net worth is starting to compound independently of your salary. Year 10, your 401k has been growing at roughly 7% annually with consistent contributions plus the employer match. It's sitting at over $200,000. Your HSA, which you've been maxing out every year and never touching, is at $45,000. You've got 3 rental properties now generating $1,900 per month in positive cash flow after all expenses. Your taxable brokerage account has $120,000 in index funds. Your total net worth just crossed $600,000. You're still working your job, or maybe you strategically switched companies for better pay and benefits. But here's the transformation. You're not dependent on the job anymore. You're leveraging it. This is when the psychology completely flips. Most people at this stage of their career feel trapped by their lifestyle and obligations. You feel liberated by your assets. If your boss becomes unreasonable, you can walk away. If a better opportunity appears in a different city, you can take it because your rental properties are professionally managed and your investments are completely portable. You're not chained to the paycheck. You're optimizing it. Now, I know the objection you're probably forming. This sounds great, but I don't make $80,000. I'm at $45,000 and barely surviving. Fair point. So let's run those numbers. With a $45,000 salary after taxes, you're probably taking home around $34,000. If your company offers even a 3% 401k match, that's $1,350 of free money annually. If they offer an HSA-eligible health plan, you can contribute strategically to get tax deductions. Let's say you save $2,000 per year in taxes through smart benefit usage. That's $350 you didn't have before you understood how the system actually works. It's not early retirement next year, but it's the foundation. The game scales to your income level. The principles don't change based on your salary. And here's what nobody tells you about this path. It gets exponentially easier over time. The first $50,000 in net worth is an absolute grind. The second $50,000 comes faster because your assets are starting to work for you. The third $50,000 feels almost automatic because compound growth is doing the heavy lifting. By the time you hit $500,000 in net worth, your investments are generating more annual growth than you're personally contributing. You've hit escape velocity. The job is still useful for benefits and credibility, but it's no longer the primary driver of your wealth. That's the real end game. Not quitting your job in some dramatic fashion. Not retiring at 35 to live in a van. The end game is reaching a point where your job serves you instead of you serving it, where employment becomes a strategic choice rather than a survival requirement, where you show up because the benefits package is valuable and the work is genuinely interesting, not because you'll be on the street without that next paycheck. Your employer thinks they own your time and attention. Let them think that. Meanwhile, you're running a parallel operation where their salary funds your equity positions, their benefits build your safety net, and their institutional credibility opens financial doors they'll never walk through themselves. You're not their employee. You're an investor extracting maximum return from a corporate partnership that doesn't even know it's been flipped. The real scam isn't that jobs underpay you. The real scam is that most people never realize their job is potentially the best investor they'll ever have, offering free capital, tax advantages, skill development, and institutional backing. And they walk away from all of it while chasing a version of freedom they haven't actually funded yet. Don't be most people. Extract everything your job offers. Build quietly and strategically. And leave only when the math definitively says you can, not when your feelings tell you to.